principle of dynamic case clearing make unswerving efforts to refine pandemic control measures, ensure accountability, promote seamless testing, transfer, admission for treatment, and realize the clearing up of community transmission at an early date. We must ensure the needs of the general public can be timely responded to, including the needs for medicine and food supply. We advise the general public to continue to have good personal protection, get vaccinated, in particular among the elderly. As of 18th April, across the country, we have inoculated 3,317,463,000 doses, 1,246,769,000 people have completed full-course vaccination. Today, we will focus on refine and solidify our control measures. We have with us DG Wu Chengeng from the Highway Department of Ministry of Transportation, DDG Mao Dezhi from the Economic Cooperation Department of the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Affairs, DDG Wu Liangyou from the Disease Control Bureau of National Health Commission, DDG Bian Zuodong from the Market Supervision Department of State Postal Bureau, Chief Epidemiologist Mr. Wu Zunyou from CDC, and they will jointly take your questions. Now the floor is open for questions. Please raise your hands if you have questions, and please identify yourself before you ask questions. First question, please. Thank you. With Xinhua News Agency, we'd like to be informed of the overall situation of the pandemic in recent days. I'd like to invite Mr. Wu Liangyou to take the question. Thank you for your question. Between the 1st of March and 18th of April, in 31 provinces, autonomous regions, and municipalities under the Xinjiang Production Construction Corp, there has been accumulatively reported 497,214 infected cases, rippling into all provinces outside of Tibet. Recently, the situation in our country has been gradually stabilized. However, there are still interlocked influence among different regions. Localities are still faced with arduous challenge for case clearing up. In Hebei, Jiangsu, Zhejiang, Anhui, Guangdong, Fujian, Liaoning provinces, the situation is generally stabilized. In the city of Jilin province, the situation is turning better, and the case number is on downward trend. In the city of Changchun of Jilin province, the case number is on downward trend, with newly identified infected cases only from the mass quarantine places. But given a big base number of infection, there is still risk of community transmission, and we must continue the ongoing prevention measures to consolidate the past achievements. In the city of Shanghai, the case number is still high, and there is still a high risk of community transmission. The situation is still grim, and the control task is still arduous. The State Council Interagency Task Force will continuously implement the overall strategy of preventing imported cases of domestic rebounding and the general principle of dynamic case clearing. It will guide localities to make control efforts in a scientific and targeted way to maximize the control outcome with minimum social cost, make holistic arrangement and balance between pandemic control and economic social development. Localities must pay special attention to venues and posts at risk, enhance the daily health monitoring and NAT testing of people at these risky places or risky posts. Once there is the identification of any case, we must rapidly respond to it and resolutely ensure there won't be large-scale rebounding. Thank you. Next question, please. With Hong Kong Economic Herald, my question goes to Mr. Wu Zunyou. What is the difference between dynamic case clearing and zero COVID? And why should we choose the strategy of dynamic case clearing? Mr. Wu Zunyou is taking the question. there is a substantial difference between dynamic case clearing and zero COVID. Dynamic case clearing means whenever we identify any case, we must stamp it out and ensure there won't be onward transmission in the place where the case was identified. We must prevent the onward transmission from the identified place to other places. Dynamic case clearing is not in pursuit of COVID-0, but whenever we identify any case, we must interrupt the potential transmission chain. In other words, we do not require that at a certain given time moment, there is not a single case in the country. Rather, the dynamic case clearing principle emphasizes that whenever there is any case, we must ensure the stamping out in relatively short time of onward transmission. Once infected with the coronavirus, there will be 1 to 2 days for the virus to replicate before it will have the viral shedding, which may last for 7 to 12 days. During the viral shedding, it will be infectious. Therefore, the virus needs to be transmitted among humans to ensure it can plague the place for a long time. In other words, for any infected person, if we can ensure that during these 7 to 12 days of viral shedding, because of the physical quarantine, it is not passed on to others, then there won't be future onward transmission. And for any cluster cases, if we can identify all the infected and put them on quarantine, physical quarantine, and ensure that in the longest possible viral shedding period, there won't be the likelihood of transmitting it onto others, then that means case clearing. That means stamping out. If we can identify the infected cases at an early date so that the infection can be controlled in a smaller scale, in the places where there hadn't been cases, or in places where there had been cases, but these cases were imported from other places or other countries, dynamic case clearing will be the best way. After the battle in Hubei province in Wuhan, most cases in our country were because of imported cases. In the past 2 years, there has been proven practice showing that whenever we identify any case or cluster case, we immediately stamp them out and block the onward transmission, maximizing the socio-economic outcome with the minimum input. This suits our national particularities, and that is the best choice for us for our control strategy. Next question, please. With the Southern Metropolitan News. Because of the pandemic, it is said that many cargo drivers are stranded en route, and the citizens say, and that has slowed down the logistic supply. What will be the response measures? I'd like to invite Mr. Wu Chengong to take the question. Recently, there had been sporadic cluster cases in several localities. As you've mentioned, pandemic control has negative impact on logistics and transportation. There were some choke points and blockage. We have been taking stock of the situation and has identified the following reasons. First, arbitrary restrictions has led to the difficulty of cargo transportation in some localities. There is a one-size-fits-all control measure to dissuade the cargoes from medium and high-risk regions. Second, there are some unreasonable setting up of the checkpoints.
And some of the checking points are set up in the main part of the expressway, resulting in blockades. Certainly, some of the main expressway are interrupted and result in blocked transportation. And some of the transfer subs are blocked, and the burden of courier personnel are increased. The party and the State Council pay high attention to ensuring smooth transportation and ensure supply chain operation, and the Joint Interagency Task Force on April 10th printed the notice on ensuring the smooth transportation of cargo. And also in the morning of 18th April, the State Council convened a teleconference on ensuring supply chain and industrial chain, making arrangement for 10 measures, and the Ministry of Transportation seriously implement the President Xi Jinping's spirit and the deployment of the party and the State Council, stick to the policy of people-centered and prioritizing smooth transportation. After a special meeting yesterday, we, in the morning, convened a State Council Command Office first meeting on transportation. In the next steps, we will stick to the bottom line of ensuring livelihood, smooth up the cargo transportation, and increase supply and for ensuring supply chain. And we will take the following measures to ensure that people's necessities will be transferred, and the last mile will be smoothed up. That's the first point. Second, we will set up centralized working groups for ensuring smooth transportation, and we will identify the problems and put the picture of the network, road network onto the wall, and try to find the bottleneck. Second, we will ensure the cargo drivers' NAT testing will. Once NAT testing is finished, they can go on to transport the cargo, and if they are identified as positive, they will be blocked in the next stop. And also, we will set up a contactless transfer station, ensuring closed-loop management of personnel. And we will prioritizing Shanghai and Yangtze River Delta area to ensure smooth transportation of cargo in that area. And next, we will offer special treatment to special cases, and we will play the positive role of the hotline 12328. This line will have people on duty for 24 hours. 7 days a week, and we will also try to alleviate the burden of logistic companies and the personnel, helping the logistic companies and the drivers to solve their problems. Next, we will mobilize the motivation of all parties, especially mobilize the logistic company personnel's motivation to work harder, and we also set up an emergency plan to ensure smooth transportation of cargoes. Thank you. Now we allow further questions. Thank you. I'm from Agricultural Network. We are facing the cultivation season, and in some localities, because of the control measures, some of the farmers are difficult to get to the farm, and it's difficult for machines to get onto the road. And what are the measures adopted by Ministry of Agriculture? Now, thank you for your question. The floor is given to Mr. Mao Dezhi. Thank you for your interest in agricultural production. At present, we are starting the process of spring cultivation. The overall progress is smooth. The total planted area of agriculture was 19.4% of the total cultivating area, 1.2 percentage points faster than the previous year. And winter wheat planting area remained the same as the last year. And also the first category sprout percentage reached 87.9%, 17.4 percentage point higher than the previous year. And also, we also have seed, fertilizer, and pesticide arriving at 90% of the farm household. As you mentioned just now, because of the sporadic cases in some localities, it's difficult for the farmers to go back to the farmland and difficult for the machines to come to the farms. And Ministry of Agriculture pay high attention to this issue, and we have issued many notices on ensuring spring cultivation and ensuring the smooth production of livestock. We also open many hotlines and online chatting functions to solve the specific difficulties of farmers and market entities. In the next steps, we will work together with relevant agencies to adopt targeted measures. We will start from the needs of the farmers and the needs of the cultivation, adopt a tiered method, and smooth up the bottlenecks, ensure the smooth transportation of agricultural cargo and farmers to ensure timely cultivation in the spring. First, we will adopt differentiated prevention and control measures. We will adopt village-based management measures. We will classify areas into closed-down area, managed area, and alert area, and we will avoid overburdened measures. We will stop the setup of stopping point on the arbitrary basis for county, city area without any case. We will ensure normalized production. And for county area with cases, we will have a management, we will have alert areas. On the prerequisite of adequate control, we will ensure the smooth transportation of agricultural products and agricultural machines and farmers. And in management area, we will make arrangement of ANT testing and closed-loop management, allowing farmers to go to the farms in a staggered way, and they should have a point-to-point way of production, that is from home to farmland, from farmland to home. And for closed-down area, we will organize the farmers to help each other, and also we can offer custodian services to farmers, ensure that farmers without access to farmland to have a full plantation in their farmland, ensure that the seed can be planted during the right season, the right timing. And we should also allow the agricultural technical staff to go to the farmland to offer technical guidance to farmers. Second, we will orderly arrange the migrant worker to go back to their hometown to engage in cultivation, and we will organize farmers to go back as early as possible. And we will arrange farmers who rent their farmland in another area to go to the rental place to plant. And for migrant workers coming back to their hometown, we will properly manage them and allow them to go to farmland for agricultural production on the prerequisite of prevention and control measures. Thirdly, we will ensure the agricultural machines and materials to arrive at the farmland on a timely basis. For areas without any case, they should not stop the transportation of agricultural machines. And for areas with the cases, and they should identify the needs for agricultural machines and operators, and try to get contact with the service entity and find the appropriate operators and facilitate the operators to go to the farmland.
At the same time, we must ensure smooth transportation pathways so that fertilizers, pesticides, and seeds can be delivered to the farmers who need them. We must ensure there will be fast green track for these farmers. They will get the pass as a priority. Based on counties, there will be door-to-door supply insurance to ensure these agricultural produce vendors can keep normal operation and the farmers' needs can be satisfied. I'd like to make some additional information remark here. I have talked about the hotline opened by our ministry. You can log on to our website, the homepage, to find this telephone. All the difficulties can be given feedback to us via this telephone or online. The competent authority will verify the issue and jointly promote solution.
I have two questions. My first question is for the Ministry of Transport, official Mr. Wu. You said you'll prioritize Shanghai and the Yangtze River Delta. How exactly will you ensure goods are delivered in Shanghai when the city is still locked down and most people are still in their houses and can't go to work? Will this be enough? Will your efforts be enough to get goods moving smoothly through the port in Shanghai? The second question is, why hasn't Shanghai been able to continue producing when Shenzhen, which was locked down earlier in March, was able to continue without disruption? Thank you.
好，请翻译一下问题。
我有一个问题想问吴先生。那我想问的是呢，像在上海位于长江三角洲附近，因此那里的封锁会对相应的生产造成极大的影响，尤其是所担忧的是从港口向城市其他的生产地区的运送的问题。想问具体采取什么样的措施来促进供应链和物流的堵点能够打通，使生产能够恢复？相对于上海来说，深圳是更早进行采取风控措施的城市，为什么深圳现在已经恢复生产了，而上海尚未？谢谢。
好，请吴春耕先生。
I'd like to invite Mr. Wu Chungang to take the question. Thank you for your question. Indeed, the current outbreaks have been featured by multiple and sporadic outbreaks. The situation is grim. The Ministry of Transportation has been implementing the State Council Interagency Task Force policy circular to ensure logistics and supply. We have a holistic arrangement to ensure waterway, highway, and railway transportation. We have strived all out to ensure the key supplies, including food, energy, fertilizers, and the container transportation to be smooth. In particular, we focused on the Shanghai port. You have been focusing on Shanghai port. Exactly, that is the question we are striving all out to deal with. We've carried out the following measures. First, we have rapid deployment. On 12th of April, the Ministry of Transportation has issued the policy circular, and we focused on the smooth transportation via to and fro the port. We've put forward altogether 11 specific measures. Second, we've started with the self-correction. We urge the localities in the Yangtze River Delta, in particular the provincial level transportation competent authority, to make self-check, self-correction. For any unreasonable set-up quarantine or anti-pandemic checkpoints, they were all removed. Now there are only 5 anti-pandemic checkpoints left. By so doing, we have strived all to ensure the smooth operation of the Shanghai port. We have sent 25,000 staff to work in the port area in a closed-loop management. We've set up an ad hoc working committee, and we focused on daily scheduling mechanism. Meanwhile, we have been ensuring the logistic chain is smooth for the international marine transportation. We've optimized the freight delivery from the international liners. Fifth, we have timely coordinated to deal with the problem. Apart from the hotline 12328, we've also been dealing with any blockage issues that have been fed back to us. Some data to be shared with you, as now the ships at the port, time has been improved according to AIS big data analysis between 11th of April and 17th of April, that is last week. The docking of the international liners to Shanghai port have almost resumed to normal. International container ships docking time has also seen major improvement compared with January and February. Comprehensive service efficiency, loading and unloading efficiency has also seen improvement. The offshore container shipping docking time reached to 2.02 days. That is 1.9% lower than the first 2 months in this year and much lower than that of last year. In other words, the docking time has been shortened. You've also been comparing the city of Shanghai and Shenzhen. Yes, the cases in Shenzhen were identified earlier. The measures we adopted earlier, and we are seeing the tailing off of the cases, and the situation is becoming better. We are convinced that soon the logistic issue in Shanghai can be dealt with properly in the foreseeable future. Thank you. With the CCTV impacted by the pandemic, in some localities, the last mile blockage is quite prominent. What will be the role played by the State Post Bureau? I'd like to invite Mr. Bian Zuodong. Thank you for your question. In light of the blockage in the last mile, last kilometer or the last 100 meters, we have made measures in the following aspects. First, we have resolutely implemented the control deployment by the State Council and Central Party Committee. In light of the specific requirement of local competent authority, we have been optimizing the control measures. Second, in light of the local government needs, we have supported the local government to ensure supply of the emergency relief logistic transportation in Shanghai City, Jingdong, or the 360 by and the State Post Bureau fast or courier delivery services have been making efforts to ensure smooth logistic delivery at the last mile. As of 18th of April, 1,200 vehicles have been dispatched to Shanghai to ensure the livelihood supply transportation. In total, more than 6,000 tons of livelihood supplies have been delivered to the Shanghai citizens in the province of Jilin. 10 companies have been mobilized to support livelihood supplies. Almost 10,000 vehicles were mobilized to transport the livelihood or grocery materials. Of course, these are only epitome of the entire work by the post and the fast delivery or courier industry. Third, we've been mobilizing volunteers in the courier delivery or the express delivery businesses. Many staff have voluntarily formed contingent teams, and in particular, the party members have been taking the lead to provide livelihood supplies to the citizens on lockdown areas. In the city of Shanghai, more than 4,000 courier boys, the fast delivery boys, have been working as volunteers in communities. Fourth, we have been leveraging new science and technology. We've even nurtured new business formats. For example, Jingdong and other fast delivery enterprises have mobilized the use of unmanned smart delivery vehicles to have contactless delivery and minimize transmission.
During this period of a pandemic, the courier services in China will work together to overcome the difficulties, and the courier boys will further contribute to disease prevention and ensuring people's livelihood. Thank you. We allow further questions. From CGTN. Because of the features of the variant of the virus, we have faced new challenges in disease prevention and control. And how can we ensure early identification faced with this new feature of the virus? Thank you for your question. The floor is given to Mr. Wu Zhunyong. Thank you for your question. Early identification is the key for ensuring the success of disease prevention. In line with the features of the pandemic, we identify the overall strategy of preventing imported cases and preventing domestic rebound. And we identify the principle of dynamic zero COVID. And many of the local cases are transmitted through imported cases. So for early identification, the most important thing is to stop the virus from entering into China. So we identify two matters here. First, we have a quarantine period for entry staff, entry person, and to identify infected person who come to China. Second, we have daily monitoring for people who work in cold chain and cargo transportation so as to prevent cargo to person transmission and onward transmission to other humans. These two measures can ensure early identification of cases. And we try to identify the case in the first generation of the virus. To stop the transmission of the virus domestically, we have identified certain measures. First, we will control the spread of the infected person to move from one area to another area. Second, we strengthen community clinic monitoring over visitors, especially visitors with fever and coughing symptoms. We will provide them with NT testing and antigen test to ensure early identification. Certainly, we also promote individuals to keep a watch on their personal health. If they have a sore throat or coughing symptoms, they can use antigen tests to have self-testing. If they are tested positive, they should report to the relevant authority and to get treated properly. Thank you. We allow further questions. Thank you. From China channel of CCTV. It is said that the Ministry of Transportation will first provide uniform format of travel certificate. What is the overall situation? The floor is given to Mr. Wu Chunge. Thank you for your question. For establishing special transportation certificate, it is an important measure for ensuring cross-province, cross-region transportation of key materials. Ministry of Transportation have made the deployment for the issuance of a travel certificate. By the end of April 17th, 23 provinces in China have established such a travel certificate system. We have launched 31 contingent transfer stations in 10 provinces. In Shanghai port, the transportation of key materials have been improved. We have adopted the following measures. First, we have specified the launching procedure for travel certificate. For normal areas, no certificate is needed, and for medium to high-risk region, the joint agency task force in the province, based on the needs of the transportation of key materials, they will make a judgment whether they will initiate the travel certificate system. And for provinces with previous certificate system, they should transfer the uniform format of transportation certificate. Second, we will standardize the scope for using the travel certificate. This certificate should be used for the transportation of medical materials, daily necessities, and reserve materials, and postal courier to ensure people's livelihood. And also for key production materials like agriculture, energy, raw materials, key industrial products, this can use transportation certificate also. And different provinces can expand the scope of the travel certificate as appropriate. Thirdly, once this certificate is issued, and for the issuance of the certificate, the companies can apply with Ministry of Information and Technology, Ministry of Public Security, Ministry of Transportation, Ministry of Agriculture, and other agencies. And based on the responsibility mandate of each department, they will prioritize the issuance of a travel certificate to companies. Fourthly, we standardize the usage of the travel certificate. One certificate can be only used for one driver, one route, one car. And this certificate can be used repeatedly within the effective period. And we are promoting online application of the certificate. And for cargo cars with certificate, special lanes will be set up for smooth transportation of the cargo. And also, if there is no certificate system at the starting point and the ending point, no travel certificate is needed. During the usage of the travel certificate, because of lack of communication during the transportation period, you may face some problems. And we open hotlines and open websites to strengthen monitoring and encourage ministries of transportation at different localities to work hard on a timely basis to solve those problems. Thank you. Now we allow for the questions. Thank you. From Hong Kong Review News. I want to know the latest vaccination process in China, especially for boosters and elderly people above the age of 60. Thank you for your question. The floor is given to Mr. Wu Liangyou. Thank you for your question. According to the Interagency Task Force of the State Council, NHC of the country guided different localities to actively promote the vaccination process. By the end of 18th of April, the total reported vaccination dosage reached 3,317,463,000, and we have provided vaccination to 1,282,120,000 people. And among this, 1,247,769,000 finished full course vaccination. The coverage was 90.87% and 88.36% respectively. And the booster dosage 732,659,000 people. And among this, 25,422,000 have finished the sequential boosting dosage. For our senior person above the age of 60, we have provided vaccination to 225 million elderly people. Among this, 230 million have finished full course vaccination, and 154 million have finished booster dosage vaccination. And this data are continuously updated. The overall vaccination program of China is implemented on a smooth basis, and we are still continuing with the booster dosage. In recent days, the vaccination ratio of elderly people are increasing. We are guiding localities to strengthen promotion efforts to help the citizens to have an objective and a scientific understanding of the importance of vaccination.
We'd also like to take the opportunity for your close attention from the media. We also hope the media friends can continue to advocate the importance of vaccination for the general public. Thank you. Thank you. With Phoenix TV. Given the features of this round of outbreak, going ahead, what will be the reminders for the localities for preparation and reservation? I'd like to invite Mr. Wu Zunyu to take the question. Thank you for your question. Our understanding of the coronavirus, it's still quite limited. In the future, there will be mutation of the virus, there will be evolution of the pandemic, and that will be complicated. It might be of a weaker pathogenicity and a stronger transmissibility. It might also evolve into stronger transmissibility and stronger pathogenicity. Regardless how the evolution may be, we must be prepared. I'd like to put forward 4 reminding notices. First, psychologically, we must be prepared for a long-term battle. We should be confident that towards the end of the day we can fight off the pandemic. However, we shouldn't be blindfolded by the oversimplified optimistic fallacy that the pandemic will end soon. Second, we must enhance our control and prevention capacities, in particular for the potential large-scale outbreaks. We should have we should be able to make some prediction and to avoid the emergence of large-scale outbreaks. Third, we must step up vaccination. In particular, we must target the elderly and the people with underlying diseases. Vaccination will always remain a fundamental work for COVID-19 prevention control. And fourth, we should be prepared for potential scale outbreak. It might be the preparation in workforce, and we should be able to carry out mass NAT testing swiftly and frequently in the pandemic heat jurisdictions. And third, we must ensure the rapid expansion of healthcare facilities. So even there is the increase of case numbers, we can still provide sufficient health services. And besides, we must be prepared with the capability of building camping hospitals or camping venues to house symptomatic cases or mild cases for mass quarantine and medical observation, and we should also be reserved in our health resources. With people's daily, in some hot heat regions, there is a strong pressure of supply for fresh agricultural produce. In some cities, it's difficult and expensive to buy vegetables. However, in the agricultural produce regions, the field vegetables haven't been collected and they are stranded for fail. So how can we ensure the effective supply of the veggie baskets? I'd like to invite Mr. Wang Maodezhi to take the question. That's an important question. First, there is a sufficient supply of the national veggie basket. In-field veggie has a total acreage of 73,840,000. In the first half of April, the total produce numbered 19,300,000 tons, which means every day per capita consumption of veggie can be as high as 1.735 kilo. Meanwhile, the production of meat, egg, milk has seen an annual increase of 8.8%, 2.5%, and 8.3% respectively. The supply of agriculture products have also been stable. So in terms of the overall supply, meat, egg, milk, products, aquatic products and vegetable can meet the consumption needs of the general public. The current bottleneck is in the blockage of distribution in certain regions impacted by the pandemic. In some regions, they have met the dilemma that the in-field vegetable were not collected efficiently. Region transportation was difficult, and there was further difficulty in in-city distribution. Going ahead, Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Affairs will work with the Ministry of Transportation, Ministry of Commerce to remove the bottlenecks or choke points and to ensure sufficient and stable supply of the veggie basket. First, we must focus on production. We must have a reasonable arrangement of the maturity among different varieties of vegetables. In major cities, metropolitans, we promote the leaf vegetables produce sprouting because they mature rapidly, and we must ensure supply in proximity to their production. The output of livestock and poultry, the aquatic products, must be in sufficient supply and normal distribution. Also, the same is true for breeding stock and feed. We must promote the rural cooperatives and swap labor among different agricultural produce enterprises to ensure proper collection. Second, we must ensure the smooth distribution of the veggies. We will work with competent authorities to include green edible oil, vegetables, fruits, meat, egg, milk, and aquatic products into the key product list, and have ongoing measures to ensure prioritized permit can be distributed to those vehicles transporting these key products. For the drivers and passengers with a green asterisk on their mobile phones, if they are driving these agricultural produce vehicles, as long as they have this permit, they must be allowed access. And we cannot dissuade them to go back to their original place only because they are going into the pandemic heat areas. Third, we must ensure product supply and ensure there will be transit and connection and sorting venues established. Drivers may come and go on different duty shifts, but the same vehicle will transport across regions, and we will have dedicated disinfection for these vehicles. We will set up a white list to provide smooth and quick access to these vehicles. And for the cargo drivers who drive into these lockdown regions, they will not be put on quarantine. Meanwhile, we must accelerate the recovery of wholesale markets and resume the business of community veggie stores. Fourth, we must ensure we link production with the distribution, establish cooperation between the production sites and the supermarkets, wholesale markets, e-commerce platform, so that there will be direct supply from the produce fields to these commerce platforms, and cargo goods will be stabilized, and we must crack down on stockpiling, price hike, or malicious hyping. Thank you. Daily economics. Recently, there has been the State Council policy circular that concrete measures are needed to ensure smooth supply of cargo goods. What are the specific arrangements by the State Post Bureau? Mr. Bian Zuodong will take the question. Thank you for your question. The smooth supply and distribution by the Postal Bureau is a specific measure to implement the State Council overall deployment. It is also one of our top priority. We have the following two specific measures for implementation. First, we have been accelerating the implementation of the State Council policies. The State Council Interagency Task Force has put forward concrete work deployment for smooth logistics for cargo supply. On that day, the State Post Bureau has issued a policy circular on specific implementation. We require holistic arrangements to be made between pandemic control and resumption of work and life to effectively promote the smooth transportation and logistics. We've guided local, provincial post bureaus to include post fast delivery as an important list for livelihood supplies.
In areas with a serious pandemic situation, we will rely on courier park to assort the materials and to ensure that the postal services and courier services can be used to provide livelihood materials to the people in those regions. And postal administrations report to the provincial party committee and the provincial government to increase the assorting venue and also to increase the number of offices for postal services. In Hebei, Anhui, Jiangxi, Gansu, and other provinces, they have issued documents to ensure the smooth operation of postal services, create the conditions for our resumption of work. We also promote companies to adopt effective measures to overcome the difficulties. We encourage postal services and courier services to make analysis of their operating networks, optimize network management, and also increase their management of drivers with green card with asterisk, and before 24 hours before the car arrive at the destination, they should issue the information of the license number, the arriving time, and the driver's information to the destination government so as to ensure smooth transportation process. We also help the companies to solve their difficulties. China Postal Company increase express mail ways and try to solve the bottlenecks. And we also ensure the rights of the courier boys and ensure the smooth operation of service networks, increase investment, and optimize endpoint performance appraisal. We allow the courier man to enter into the community compound, and we increase contactless delivery facilities, provide free NT testing to courier boys, and also ensure more courier person can come back to work. And postal services will play still role in ensuring pandemic control and economic development. Now we allow further questions. From the paper, recently WHO put BA.4, BA.5 onto the watch list. They are the two variants of Omicron variant, and we have a saying recombinant virus like XE, XD, and SL. And that means that there will be faster transmissibility of the virus. Will pathogenicity increase or decrease? How can we cope with this new variant? The floor is given to Mr. Wu Junyu. Thank you for your question. As we know that the virus is continuously mutating, some of the mutation change the biological feature of the virus, having an impact on its transmissibility, pathogenicity, immuno-escape capability, and others. Some people say that the virus is more transmissible and less pathogenic. However, if we look at the biological features, there is no direct connection between transmissibility and pathogenicity. Actually, the reverse causation relationship between the two factors are caused by the social feature of human being. When the pathogenicity is weaker, the infected person will suffer from less symptoms, so he or she may have more time to be active in the social environment. They can contact more persons and infect more persons. At present, we have not seen any obvious rule between the mutation and its pathogenicity and the transmissibility. So it is possible that it will be more transmissible and less viable. However, it is possible it will have increased transmissibility and pathogenicity. So we should be prepared for the worst. For the mutated virus, we will follow closely the changes of the virus in the globe in its transmissibility, pathogenicity, and other features. And we will look at whether our diagnostic agent can be suitable to identify the new virus and whether the current vaccine can prevent infection, severe cases, and deaths against the new variant. On the other hand, we should pay attention to normalized prevention and control measures, including 4 early measures: early identification, early reporting, early quarantine, and early treatment. For the general public, we should go get vaccinated as soon as possible and adopt personal protective measures like wearing masks, hand hygiene, social distancing. Early vaccination and booster dosage vaccination are important measures to ensure your safety. Thank you. We allow further questions. Thank you. From New Beijing News. What measures will be taken by the government to solve the cross-provincial bottleneck in transportation process so as to ensure the smooth production and the transportation of those materials? The floor is given to Mr. Wu Chungang. I think your question is about cross-province transportation of materials. Because previously there were reports about blockades on expressways. Ministry of Transportation pay high attention to this issue. The State Council issued a notice on this issue in April, and on April 11th, we set up a special task force to work on this issue. Every day, we work on the dispatchment, and we try to identify which toll station and the service area is closed during the day. By the end of 18 April, the total number of closed toll stations in China was 116, accounting for 1.07% of the total toll stations in China, a reduction of 82.89% as compared to April 10th. The temporary closed service area was 61, accounting for 0.92% of the total, a reduction of 83.24% as compared to April 10th. It means that the closed off toll station and the service area are mostly open now. So the two closed percentage was controlled within 1%. It means that the main expressway in China is unblocked. We ensure most of the toll station and the service area are open, and we ensure the road network is unblocked so as to ensure cross-province transportation. We strengthen monitoring and dispatching over the national road network. According to our understanding, the traffic volume on Expressway reduced as compared to 2021 by a large margin. For Yangtze River Delta region, the traffic reduction was very obvious. For April 18th, the total traffic was 20 million cars as compared to 33 million in 2021, so a reduction of 39.46%. Among this, cargo transportation number was 6.64 million, a reduction of 8.13%.
Among this, in the Yangtze River Delta in the city of Shanghai, Jiangsu, Anhui, Zhejiang province, the total vehicle throughput numbered 2.47 million, compared with the year of 2021, a reduction of 64.99%. That was a substantial decrease. For the cargo throughput, 1.34 million, compared with 2021, a reduction of a decrease of 20.85%. So compared with the year 2021, the overall vehicle and cargo throughput has been on the decline. However, with the policy measures implemented, we've seen the slow upward trend of the resumption of cargo and vehicle throughput. Going ahead, the Ministry of Transportation will resolutely implement the guidance from the teleconference of the National Logistic Support Conference. We will consolidate our past achievements and strive all out to ensure the smooth and unblocked transportation and logistics. We will guide localities to be concrete in their measures. In particular, the pay tolls and service zones must be opened, and this is open to the public monitoring. We also optimize the provincial rescheduling and coordination. There will be connection between the highway competent authority and the police. There will be regional coordination to deal with the blockage. And in particular, we must ensure the artery highways are smooth and unblocked. Third, we will guide scientific setting up of the anti-pandemic checkpoints, optimize the testing, and minimize the potential congestion, minimize the impact of the pandemic on the highway network. Fourth, we will continuously optimize our services. In particular, in those stranded vehicles, we must provide them with the basic services, including catering, washing room, toilets, and the gas injection and supply. We also have a 24 o'clock, around-the-clock duty services to receive the calls from the general public, be contextualized in our solutions, and ensure swifter response to urgencies. Thank you. We have many questions today, but we are running short of time, so we will take two last questions. Thank you. With the transportation news impacted by the pandemic, many cargo drivers have been stranded on way. Yesterday, Ministry of Transportation has put forward closed-loop management of NAT test as you go approach. Can you elaborate on this specific measure? Thank you for your question. Since the outbreak of the current round of a pandemic, logistic personnel, in particular cargo drivers, have been active in providing the supplies to the general public. They have made their bits of contribution to safeguard the economic running and combat the pandemic. We'd like to salute your hard work. Yesterday, we held a national teleconference on promoting sustainable supply chain and industry chain. We've put forward a specific measure of NAT test as you go and personnel closed-loop management. This measure is designed to alleviate the blockage and ensure the smooth running of the cargo drivers. I'd like to put forward my observations on the 4 dimensions of this matter. First, the NAT testing result of any cargo driver must be nationally mutually recognized as long as it is within the it is not beyond the expiry date. No locality can ask for a repeated NAT testing. And second, as long as the cargo driver has a negative NAT test result within the past 48 hours or green health barcode, they must have unfettered access into any area that they go. Third, if they have the antigen testing plus NAT testing, as long as the antigen RDT testing has a negative result, they must be provided unfettered access into any region without waiting for NAT testing results. Meanwhile, we have a dynamic tracing mechanism. Once there is the NAT testing showing positive, and the information will be informed to the next destination of the cargo driver. If the cargo driver is on the white list and they stay in an area for fewer than 4 hours, then they cannot be asterisked. Meanwhile, we will have around-the-clock service to provide dedicated solution to individual cases. Ensure services are provided to stranded cargo drivers. I'd also like to call upon the drivers of the cargo vehicles and the passengers to have good personal protection. If you see such symptoms, you are advised to make proactive reports and get medical services. In particular, cargo drivers who have been to medium and high-risk regions, you should follow closely your own passport for entry and 48-hour NAT testing results, health barcode, and telecommunication barcode, so that you can preemptively deal with any trouble. Thank you. Last question for the day. With China Post delivery news, what is the recent situation of post fast delivery? What are the specific measures to ensure the post delivery operates normally in the pandemic controlled areas? Mr. Bian Zuodong is taking the question. Thank you for your question. Recently impacted by the pandemic, the post-fast delivery business admittedly were impacted. There has been decrease in the collection and the delivery. In the first half of March, the daily business handled by the national postal industry was 336 million. However, since the middle of March, there has been decrease in the daily handled business. Compared with last year, there has been a worldwide increase of 3.8%. Because of these stranded services, the upstream merchants have been delayed in their delivery of goods, negatively impacting the netizens' online shopping experience. We've held many dedicated conferences to have overall and holistic arrangement across the country. As we prevent imported cases or domestic rebounding, we must ensure the scientific and targeted prevention control in this industry and have a solid social fabric of defense. Second, we must ensure that the post industry can serve upstream and lower stream businesses, ensure the normal delivery of anti-pandemic materials and daily necessities. We must ensure these services are unblocked and unfettered, with scientifically guided localities and enterprises to schedule their manpower, transportation capacity, optimize the organization of transportation routes. We've also been collaborating with other competent authorities. As long as we meet the local pandemic control needs, we help to promote the work resumption and deal with the stranded post packages. And fifth, we have stepped up to ensure the herd prevention of the delivery staff. We believe under the overall guidance of the State Council Interagency Task Force and with the strong support of localities, as long as the postal businesses can implement these measures, we will tide over the difficulties. Thank you. On today's press conference, guest speakers have shared with us the pandemic control situation. In particular, they've shared with us the unfettered logistic measures by the transportation authorities and other competent authorities. We will hold future conferences. Please stay tuned, and you are welcome to forward your questions in advance. Thank you.